There's a motorcycle saying that goes something like this. There are old motorcycle riders and there are bold motorcycle riders, but there are not many old and bold motorcycle riders. Last week on MCrider, we watched a rider in the Fort Worth area that had less than stellar following distance and lane position out on the highway. That video attracted a lot of attention, and if you haven't seen that video, I encourage you to watch it as well. With a lot of views come a lot of comments, and I learn a lot from reading the comments. Sometimes I learn I could have stated something a little better or to make it easier to understand, and sometimes I fail to mention something that's important. But sometimes I learn stuff from the comments, like there's a huge need for a place like MCrider on YouTube that focuses on road skills and road strategy, because some riders simply don't get it. Riding a motorcycle well on the streets is a thinking person's game. That's where road strategy comes into play. So this week I got my lovely assistant of the last 32 years to drive my truck with the dash cam running, and I followed her on my Challenger on the same stretch of roads that we looked at in last week's video. So we watched what not to do last week. This week hopefully we'll watch what to do, and I addressed some of the questions that many of you had about following distance and lane position from last week's video. Under ideal conditions, our absolute minimum following distance should be about 2 or 3 seconds. Sometimes that'll fluctuate with the ebb and flow and speed of traffic, but if you ride consistently under that recommended following distance, it will eventually catch up with you. An important note on that 2 to 3 second following distance, again, this is under ideal conditions where you can see well up the road, your tires are in good shape, properly inflated, the pavement is dry and clear, and I stress this, you know how to properly emergency brake on a motorcycle, because a 2 to 3 second following distance gets small really quick if traffic stops for an emergency in front of you and you're going 70 miles an hour up the road. You better be good on the brakes and know what you're doing to get the bike stopped. But that only happens if you practice emergency braking. So that's why I emphasize road skills here on MCrider a lot. So do a search for MCrider emergency braking on YouTube, and you'll find several videos on that topic if you have any questions or want to know how to practice that. One complaint that was frequent in the comments of last week's video is if a rider maintains a gap, then someone's going to fill in that gap. They're going to merge in there. My answer to that is, you're right, but so what? Why does that matter? Simply roll off the throttle 2 to 3 miles per hour for 10 seconds. You'll regain your following distance. Riding a motorcycle is not a turf war, so I don't care if that car gets to the red light a half second sooner than I do. My life is worth more than that 15 feet of pavement. So if it becomes an issue where multiple cars are merging in on you and it's causing you to slow down significantly, causing traffic to build up behind you, make a lane change and pass them to open the view back up and to open your space margin between you and the traffic around you. You know, there's nothing wrong with passing slower traffic if that's going to put you in a position where it's going to open up your space and time on the highway. Lane position on the highway serves a few primary purposes. Most importantly to me is I use a lane position to be able to see well up the road. So if I'm ever in a position where I can't see well up the road, I'm actively doing something to try to correct that problem. Lane position is also used to give other drivers around you the best chance of seeing you. It doesn't guarantee that they're going to see you, but I do want to give them that chance. And lane position is used to maintain a safety margin between you and the traffic around you. The more space you've got around you, the more time you've got to see the issues and react and do something about it. And plus it gives you the option to adjust to changing conditions rather than having to react or perform an emergency maneuver to get around it. Quite a few of you mentioned in the comments that you always ride in the left of the lane or in the right portion of the lane. My answer to that is I ride in whatever portion of the lane allows me the best view up the road and hopefully makes me the most visible to other traffic and provides a safety margin. So lane position is dynamic. It's always changing, but it's changing so that I can use it to my advantage to be able to see well up the road and hopefully be seen. If you stay in the same lane position, if you're always riding in the left portion or you're always riding in the right portion, no matter what, you're giving up one of your big advantages of riding a motorcycle, and that's your ability to move within your lane as it provides advantages to you. So think about that the next time you go for a ride, and notice how simply moving from one portion of the lane to the next within your lane can provide some big advantages to you as a rider. Another frequent comment was that the rider in last week's video was probably trying to get away from tailgaters. He did have some traffic that was on his tail end. If that is the case and that's what he was doing, he made his situation worse instead of better. If you have a tailgater, the last thing you want to do is become one yourself in an attempt to get away from them. By doing that, you don't solve any problems behind you, and now you've created problems in front of you, which honestly is a more dangerous situation. So what do you do if you've got a tailgater? We'll go back to that first answer again. Maintain a good following distance between you and the car in front of you. In fact, I would say increase your following distance a little when you've got a tailgater. Because if I don't have to stop quickly on the highway, the guy on my rear end will not have to stop quickly either, and hopefully I won't get run over. And often, when you increase your following distance, the tailgater gets impatient. They'll go around you and on their way, and you've solved your problem. Because remember, we're not in a turf war on the road. Let them go around. Let them tailgate the guy in front of you instead of tailgating you. Hopefully this answered a few of the questions that riders had from last week's video. I may do a Q&A video in the near future where I address some of the comments that riders left in a more direct manner. But till then, till next week, this is Kevin with MCrider, and I'll see you on the road.